desafiando a los dioses. Con intensidad luchemos, no te rindas aun si perdemos, más fuerte será.
Oh, alright people. Ah, man. I actually woke up, but I know things must be said, and things must be done. So, what is up, you guys? The Fallout What If here, and today I'm going to be doing a what if that I've been holding on for quite a while. And since it was supposed to be done in Christmas, but a lot of things happened, especially the fact that it's Christmas, I was a little sidetracked. That was my fault, and I hope you guys forgive me. But, without without any further delay, oh, I screwed that up. Anyway, this is going to be, what if Deku was the grandson of Sub-Zero and the son of Scorpion? Now, how does this all work? Where does this all take place? Well, it takes place in modern Japan. You see, due to the fact that the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu got along, and I talked to Patrick and Lasto about this, and you know what? Shout out to Lasto and Patrick onto this, because they helped me make this a good what if. Not only that, I was going to go with a lot of freaking dangerous things, which Patrick talked me out of. So, yeah, thank you guys. Now, what happens is this. Izuku's born from Inko, but her husband is not Hisashi, and it's certainly not Endeavor, because that's what was supposed to happen. But what does happen is this. Inko is married to Endeavor, and the ship will be Dabi, ex-Deku. But, to clarify some things before we get all incesty here, no, he's not related to Dabi. Inko is going to be a wife who was barren, or someone who cannot have kids. And freaking Endeavor was furious when he found out that Inko can't have kids. He wanted to grow his empire of children, which is weird. But in the very end, Inko can't be born, or she can't have kids. So Endeavor usually abuses her. He wanted to have kids. Rei is the wife of Endeavor, the first wife of Endeavor, who also happens to be in the same clan as Inko. And yes, they are in a clan. Well, not Endeavor. He's not in the Shirai Ryu or any of that. Basically, Endeavor's just Endeavor. So, what does happen is this. Inko doesn't have kids, and she is born of the Lin Kuei. And so is Rei, due to the fact that I'm giving Inko ice manipulation. Or the techniques of the Shirai, of the Lin Kuei, using cold, frost powers and all that stuff. And Endeavor doesn't like the fact that he married someone for nothing. In the very end, this is all just nothing more than something to make him mad. And it does make him mad. He can't have kids with her. He married her for no reason. Now, how is he supposed to break up with her? He can't kill her, even though he possibly could, because that would be too suspicious. Not only that, Rei is there. So, he just doesn't care at all. And the Shirai Ryu, how is that affiliated with Inko? Well, Hisashi, which is not going to be her wife. It's going to be Scorpion. Scorpion knows who Hisashi is. And basically, he's heard about his friend, who is Inko. Basically, they met before. Hisashi has heard that Inko is being treated unfairly. And he wants her to at least join his clan, or at least the Lin Kuei. Now, what does happen is this. Scorpion feels a little irritated because he's lost people in the past. And yes, these are the same two people from Mortal Kombat. These are not just two new people. And pretty much, Scorpion says that he's going to deal with this. Telling him, Hisashi, I know that it's not going to be easy, but I will return her. Or bring her here at least. I do not like the fact that they're treating her unfairly. Not only that, the fact that that guy, as you said, has a wife already. As much as I don't care about polygamy, I don't condone abandoning your spouse. So don't worry. I got this. And this is when Hisashi says, are you sure, brother? Or are you sure, sir? Or Scorpion. He is a user of Hellfire. And this is when he says, leave it to me. He may know Hellfire, but I've been in another realm for a long time. I know how Hellfire works. His doesn't seem to be as potent enough to be even called Hellfire. And this is when freaking Endeavor and Scorpion meet up. And pretty much Scorpion tells Endeavor, well, he says this. Endeavor, I've heard what you've been doing to a Lin Kuei, or a member of the Lin Kuei. Is what I hear of this true? And Endeavor said, this is none of your business. This is a Todoroki situation. And this is when freaking Scorpion just throws a freaking kunai and cuts freaking Endeavor's face. And this is when Endeavor gets mad and Scorpion says, this is a thing. Or this is a situation where I have to step in. And this is when pretty much Todoroki and Endeavor start fighting. Now, the battle continues on for quite a while. And pretty much Endeavor seems like he's getting the upper hand. The upper hand. And Scorpion, he really doesn't care. He literally shoots out fire on freaking, how would I say this? He shoots fire at freaking Endeavor. Endeavor, feeling all this pain, is saying, how the heck is your fire stronger than my fire? My quirk is Hellfire. And this is when freaking, this is when freaking Scorpion says, you may think you know Hellfire, but I've been in a place far, far scarier and far hotter than yours will ever be. And this is when these two keep fighting and clashing, and Endeavor tries to punch freaking Scorpion, but Scorpion just vanishes, and after that, gets kicked in the face by freaking Scorpion. And this is when pretty much Scorpion just grabs summons two demons to hold on to him. And this is when pretty much he starts to teleport. And he's basically teleporting to where the Todoroki's household is usually spotted at. Pretty much all that happens, and freaking Scorpion just breaks into the window and just lands and sees technically kids and Inko. Well, he doesn't see 4 kids yet. He sees only a couple of kids. And he sees freaking Inko. There we go. Much more better. So, pretty much Endeavor is being held onto, and Scorpion just says, "You're Inko, am I correct?" Inko shows her face, and technically she has a busted lip, a black eye, and basically a bruising on her face. And this is when Scorpion just wants to kill Endeavor, but he knows right now this is not the time. So, he just picks her up and he says, "I'll take care of you." Inko says, "Wait a minute, where are we going? Endeavor's going to get mad at me." And this is when Scorpion says, "Do not worry." How would I say this? Look, you'll be protected where I'm taking you. Not only that, you won't have to hear from him ever again. And this is when basically he just teleports, and they basically start teleporting, and basically they land where the Shirai Ryu is at. Now, Scorpion does not know who this lady is. He just knows that this girl is possibly from the Lin Kuei due to her ice. And this is when pretty much these two start talking after that. And basically, well, days later, they become friendlier. And friendlier because they're not that bad. He's not that evil towards her. And a couple of months later, they do the deed. He screwed her freaking brains out, using "get over here" too many times. And I'm sorry. Whipping out the freaking katana of destiny of his and just plowing her. Now, what does happen is this. Basically, a couple of people just, talk to Scorpion because he hasn't been there to talk to them. He's been mostly attending to freaking Inko. And when Inko says that she's pregnant, he says, "That is nice. That is wonderful news. Oh, that is joyous." He is very happy for her. And basically, he talks about he's going to have to meet the family and all that stuff. And this is when pretty much Scorpion just says, "All right, who's your father and who's your mother?" Inko says that her mother and father died a long time ago, but but he does have a grandfather. And this is when they basically set up a meeting, all that stuff, and they see each other. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are like, "Kuai Liang, Hanzo Hisashi, Inko, what are you doing here? I thought you were supposed to be with the member of the Shirai Ryu who saved you, and you oh, fudge." Yeah, they're a little, Inko has to sit down. She has to sit down for this one. And pretty much they find out about these two being good friends. Not only that, Sub-Zero ages, unlike freaking Scorpion, since he is a Hell Revenant. And I'm making him a Hell Revenant still, just like part Hell Revenant and all that stuff. So yeah, giving Hell Revenant babies and all that stuff with ice powers. So, after all that stuff happens, pretty much they just talk to each other. Scorpion gives him a lecture on... He doesn't give him a lecture, he's just disappointed in a way, just like, my best friend banged my freaking granddaughter. Have you no shame, Scorpion? And this is when Scorpion says, "Well, that wasn't my fault. You never told me you had kids. Why would I tell you if I had kids? Yes, okay, that sounds like a nice thing, but it doesn't benefit us in the slightest." Oh, jeez. We haven't talked to each other in a long time just because we were supposed to just deal with our own affairs for the time being. And yet, you dealt with affairs Far greater than this, Scorpion. Hanzo, why did you do this? I did not know this was your daughter. Your daughter has black hair. I have black hair too. Fair enough. And basically, Izuku, he's born a year later, and these two are still friends. Although they, Scorpion is just a little bit more, saying the words "I banged your granddaughter" in front of, and bang your granddaughter, is mocking freaking Sub-Zero's head. So Sub-Zero and him, make an agreement, all that stuff. And basically, baby Izuku is born. Now, so, basically, she was called, I don't know what to call him. I know, that's a tough one right here. Let's see, okay. So, basically, Izuku just somewhat started to learn how to, fight as a young baby and all that stuff. And pretty much, he's learning hand-to-hand combat. He's learning how to use fire. He's learning how to mostly use ice as well. Now, among all those times, pretty much Izuku is learning how to control Hellfire. And why does he learn how to control Hellfire? Because he's still a freaking Hell Revenant. But he's learned how to control the fire within him to not even be hot. He can control it to even be effective as ice. And not only that, he's learned how to do a couple of manipulations. He's learned how to summon an ice stone, or not ice stone. He's learned how to do an ice axe. A freaking that's a tough one right there. Now, he's learned how to use an ice axe, frost axe, frost sword, not only that, frost hammer, a frost bow and arrow, not only that, frost kunai, let's see, javelin, spear, pretty much it right there. Now, Izuku is going to, well, by technicality, he's going to be a little prideful in a way because of his father's, when I say father, I mean Scorpion's nature. And he's going to be calm since he has, by technicality, let's see. That's a tough one right there. I do know that I'm going to make it like this. Scorpion is going to train him on fire, Sub-Zero, ice, and not only that, he's going to be much more powerful when it comes to his attacks. And yeah, he's pretty much brought in by the Lin Kuei and by the Shirai Ryu. Why would he be brought in by them two? Well, because here's the thing. Sub-Zero and Scorpion, or Hanzo and Kuai Liang, they actually are friends still. They've never been enemies. So the fact of the matter being that freaking Sub-Zero and him, get to talk again and all that stuff. Not only that, they express their feelings about how do they feel about Izuku being both a Hell Revenant and a person who can use frost abilities. But that'll be for a later time. Izuku, not only that, has learned how to control fire and somewhat make little fire things, such as Fire Wisp, not only that, freaking Fire Aura. He's learned how to manipulate fire to his advantage. Not only that, no fire besides probably Scorpions, if he's actually serious, can actually burn him as much. Now, Izuku's been training for the past 7 years. And when Inko and freaking Hisashi, or not freaking Scorpion, when freaking Endeavor, okay, when Endeavor sees Inko and freaking Izuku, or Deku, he is pretty much not happy, as you would expect. He says, "Where have you been all this time, woman? Why haven't you come back to the house? Not only that, who is this child? And why does he have fire?" Because Izuku is sometimes just playing with a little bit of wisp. And if you don't know what a wisp is, it's one of those like little creatures that float up in the air and basically guide people and all that stuff. They're basically light sources to a path. And Izuku is just looking at him. And Izuku's still a good kid at all. He's a good kid. He's a good kid. He is a good kid. But Izuku knows that Endeavor is somewhat eyeing Izuku. Like he's somewhat proud yet somewhat angry. And Izuku says, "Mom, who is he?" And this is when Inko says that she's never actually gotten a divorce. So by technicality, that's her husband. And this is when pretty much he says, "So he's dad? He's my dad?" And she says, no, Izuku, he's technically not your dad." And this is when Endeavor says, "What do you mean I'm not his dad? Of course I'm his dad. Look at him. He's a Todoroki. You have done well to bring me someone like this." And Izuku is just a little... He's just a little scared right now. And when I mean scared, I mean this kid does not know who this stranger is who has picked him up and he has been trained to kill and to fight. So Izuku, for the most part, grabs his freaking fire and just throws fire at freaking Endeavor's face. And Endeavor says, "That kind of hurts." What the hell? Ha! He has my fire. Of course. And this is when Inko says, "He's not your child, Endeavor. He's someone else's." And he says, "Who? Who is this child?" "Only I possess this kind of fire." And this is when he remembers that time where he got his butt kicked. His ass handed to him. Oh boy. And he starts connecting the dots, connecting the time, connecting the math. And this is when he says, "Wait a minute. Your kid? Your kid what?" And this is when Inko says, "Yes, my kid is not your kid. He is that man's child." And this is when he says, "How dare you cheat on me?" And this is when she yells back and she says, "Cheated on you? You slapped me all this time. You've given me a hell, which I did not want to live in. You forced this marriage. Not only that, even if it was forced, you could have been at least nice to me. But no, you abused me. Not only that, you didn't even want me anymore." And this is when he says, "It doesn't matter if I wanted you or not. The fact of the matter is, you're still my wife. And in doing so, you will not go out with someone else besides me. Is that understood?" And this is when she says, "I'm still going out with him. I care about this man and I love him a lot." And this is when he says, "You're coming back to the house with me." And Izuku, the moment he sees him grabbing freaking Inko's hand, And Inko's weak. She's a weakling by nature. Now, the reason why I would say she would, why Endeavor would marry her is because he knows that it's technically she's a frost user from a family who's actually much more powerful than the clan itself. So he's like, okay, I'll take this opportunity. That's good enough. So Izuku just runs up to him and hugs him, and he says, "Let go of me, you little turd." And Izuku just holds on and just breaks out of the ice, actually creating an ice clone. And pretty much Endeavor can't actually hold on. Well, technically he can't actually move his leg. So Izuku runs back and just somewhat chokes him as hard as he could and summons an ice clone, which is somewhat choking Endeavor. Not only that, Izuku just runs up to him and does a freaking double kick to his chest. And even though it's not hard, it still kind of hurts. It still kind of hurts, at least. And Endeavor just somewhat coughs a little bit because it did hurt. So this is when pretty much he burns his body part. He burns his body. And this is when pretty much he just throws a freaking punch toward Izuku. Izuku somewhat jumping on his hand and jumping to his face, starting to punch it. And freaking Endeavor is trying to grab him, but he just somewhat teleports right behind him, and someone's just bashing him in the head, or just punching him as hard as he could. Now this is because Izuku's been trained by killing, so he understands how to kill and how to maneuver, how to dodge, even if it's a bigger opponent than him, even if it's the smallest opponent for him, even if it's the opponent the same size as him. Izuku just kicks him away. Not only that, Izuku just tells Mom to let's go. And Izuku can only teleport them like a block away. And he's like, crap. And Inko just carries him, and they just start running. Endeavor starts chasing them, and this is when pretty much Inko just starts running and running and running and running and running. So, all that stuff happens, she gets out of the way, Izuku makes little ice clones of themselves, but Endeavor actually catches on to this and somewhat, gets even more mad. That's what I was going to say. And pretty much starts still chasing them and chasing them and chasing them. And yeah, they eventually lost Endeavor. Endeavor kind of screwed up. Not only that, he was so mad that he was just chasing them on foot, so he wasn't actually thinking, oh yeah, I could fly. So yeah, that kind of sucked. Now, after all that stuff happens, basically they say not to tell Dad about this, and Izuku just says, I won't tell Grandpa. Nor you can tell your father. Not even father. And pretty much they spend their life like this, just not going towards freaking anyone. And yes, there is heroes known as the Lin Kuei, and assassins known as the Shiraryu. Izuku falls down in this big category right here. He's an anomaly, but his life is going to become upside down for what's going to happen to him. So, Izuku is going to be a hero, a villain, and an anti-hero at the same time. He's an anomaly. So, Izuku just going places, somewhat learning how to kill even more, learning how combat works. Not only that, the potential of humility, self-respect, and understanding is ingrained to his whole nature. Not only that, Izuku has been taught how to summon a demon. Now, he can only summon 2 demons, but one demon is a frost demon, and another one is a fire demon. So, Izuku's learned that. Not only that, he's learned how to summon creation. Now, it's not a big creation at all. It's basically, like I said, the weapons he can make. And not only that, he can summon, at times, let's say, a frost bird or a fire bird, so that way they can at least see what's happening and all that stuff. So basically, it's the eyes and ears of the sky. He can see much more better with his creations and all that stuff. But it's just only those two for now. It's not going to be a big deal. Now, after all that stuff happens, we get to the whole point of UA, which he's not going to. Nope, he's going to live his life as an assassin for right now. So Izuku's been killing politicians, freaking scum of the earth, getting rid of him. But people see that as a menacing thing, but they don't know who's doing it. They just know this person is good. Well, not good, but he's a good killer, because he's not been, technically, his tracks have not been caught yet. So, Izuku just goes into school, which he still has to go to. Now, he meets different people, such as Toga. And him and Toga are pretty much good friends. Izuku understands her and respects her in a way, because she can do different moves, such as blood manipulation. When I mean blood manipulation, her mother is someone we all know. Some of us love, some of us hate, but she's going to be a part of the ship too. Her mother is Melina. Now, why is it Melina? Well, because Melina was just bored one time, very horny, had Melina, left, because she knew that if they found out that she was a human, basically, yeah, there was going to be consequences. Melina left her here. Not only that, she has a kingdom to one day rule, and she has to help out the will of her father, Shao Kahn. That's pretty much it. So Izuku just goes around with her, and pretty much she learns not blood manipulation, but how to manipulate her blood to somewhat shoot out auras, such as basically an aura like, how would I say this? Purple aura, basically an energy attack. Or not only that, she could somewhat make herself shielded. Not only that, she can still use her quirk. And pretty much, her teeth are a little more sharper due to the fact that it's Melina. Melina's teeth are sharp. So after all that stuff happens, pretty much Izuku is just, Izuku and her are just friends. And pretty much, they don't actually go to school all the time, because they usually hang out in a bad part of town. Pretty much where there's a lot of bad guys. And with said these bad guys, they think they can handle 2 kids and get their money and at least have fun with the girl. Oh no! Izuku just somewhat grabs one of the guys that tries to land a punch, and he pretty much throws him to the ground, freezes his arm up so he can't actually get up, and his quirk is actually lizard skin, so it's tough. So Izuku just punches him straight into the face, and after that uses his eye and hardens up his fist with ice, and after that punches him so hard that it cracks the guy's jaw, and after that just summons a fire foot, kicking him so hard in the face that leaves a burn mark and almost melting the skin. So Izuku just somewhat knocks him out, and basically they all have their fun. Now, they do meet a person who they find out to be Dabi, because Dabi uses fire, and Izuku uses fire. Not only that, Dabi is somewhat, it's a she. She is not going to be Izuku's not going to be buying this one. I'll one day find out a way how to make it buy. My own way. Anyway, so Izuku just, talks to her and all that stuff. Oh, sheesh. Okay. So Izuku just knows how to talk to her. He knows how to talk to her. And pretty much he says, oh, hey, sorry about this. We're not trying to fight you or anything. We're just going one way. And she says, yeah, but, you know... Or Dabi says, yeah, but, you know... Or, yeah, hold on, sheesh. Yeah, but, you know... You're in my territory, so I can't just let you slide. As much as I would, it would be an annoyance to just fight you, by the same time I have a rep to protect. So this is when Toga basically puts up a stance, and Izuku says, sorry, Toga, but this is my time. Look, I'll let you fight one day, or I'll let you fight, but only when it's someone who has not challenged me. And this is when pretty much Dabi says, alright, good. Izuku just uses ice and throws a freaking ice attack, and this is when she just burns it and just shoots out fire. Izuku just dodges it out of the way, and not only that, shoots out a freaking shuriken, and she says, oh, we're using weapons. And Izuku says, where I come from, these things are actually normal. You have to fight with anything that you have on your body. Not only that, you must learn how to maintain the art of weaponry. You can't just use your quirk in combat. That's not it. You have to be versatile in everything. And this is when pretty much Dabi says, alright, I have an idea. And she grabs out a bat. And she just starts shooting out fire and swinging the bat. And she's not crazy or anything, but she's just someone who likes a challenge. And Izuku just somewhat dodges all these attacks, but gets kicked in the freaking face. And this is when pretty much he smacks him in the freaking head with the bat. And this is when pretty much Izuku is on the ground and just teleports, grabbing her and just somewhat throwing her onto the other side. Her regaining her balance and all that stuff just somewhat gets excited and shoots out a lot of fire. And Izuku just somewhat runs to the fire, shooting out ice and all that stuff. Or shooting, summoning an ice barrier. And somewhat getting, having the fire coming towards him. And he somewhat, how would I say this? He just teleports out of the way. And grabs her and does a German suplex. This is when she feels a little dazed and all that stuff. But she's shooting fire straight at Izuku's face and all that stuff. Toga gets very scared and just teleports right towards Dabi, and she's about to stick him with the scythe. Or not scythe, with a knife. And this is when pretty much Izuku just grabs her knife and just somewhat just tosses her aside and grabs him and just somewhat shows his face, which actually has a skull on it. And he just roars out of anger. And pretty much Dabi is scared because it's like, what the fudge? And pretty much Izuku just punches her so hard in the stomach, she gets knocked out. Now, a couple of hours later, Dabi wakes up, seeing that Izuku is somewhat not your ordinary child. She says, what is your name? Izuku says, my name is Izuku. Pretty much it. And she says, how did you survive that attack? Even if you learned how to control fire, or even if you were immune to fire, or even if you resisted to fire, blue fire is not your ordinary fire. And Izuku just shoots out freaking black fire, and he says, I know how hot freaking fire can be. Even though I can only control so much of it, I'm resistant to it. I'm immune to fire in general. Not only that, that's not the powerfulest part of fire. It's red fire that's actually the most powerfulest. If only you know how to use it. Anyway, I'm kind of bored. So, do you want to join me? And she says, join you for what? Well, technically I did beat you, and not only that, it is boring over here. I actually want to create my own kind of organization. And this is when Izuku just says, I promise, it's nothing bad. We only get to kill scum. And this is when she says, I'm going to actually aim for a hero that I have to kill. And this is when they're like, who? And pretty much they said, it's technically a hero that I know. His name is Endeavor. And this is when Izuku says, alright. And she says, wait, you're okay with this? He's the number 2 hero. It's like, I didn't think you'll be okay with this. And this is when Izuku says, yeah, I have a score to settle with him. It's not pretty, but who knows? I'm not the kind of person who just gives up like that. Not only that, I actually have a couple of things I want to say to him. My mother was married to him once. Although I had siblings, I never actually had siblings. There was a person named Toya. After that, I forgot her other name. And after that, she had a brother. And then after that, he had a little brother. And how would I say this? Izuku just says, that's pretty much it. And Dabi says, wait, what? Hold on here. What do you mean your mother was married to him? That's not true. My mother was married to him. And this is when she says, who's your mother? And she says, my mother is Rei Todoroki. My father is Todoroki. And basically she gets upset because it's like she already told them the whole secret. And Izuku says, wow, I didn't know that your family was that. Not only that, I didn't know you were dumb enough to talk about it. She gets kind of mad and says, shut up. And pretty much they come up to an agreement saying, alright, I'll let you kill him. But, I don't really know. I'll think about it once I come up with it. And she says, yeah, once you come up with it. So, what is it going to be? And Izuku says, well, I don't know just yet. It's not every day I get to find out that the person who I just recruited was also the daughter of the number 2 hero. That's not just something you can just say, oh, okay, and just leave it at that. And this is when pretty much freaking Dabi says, oh, okay, well that makes a lot of sense. So, what do we do, boss? And Izuku says, we have to kill a couple of heroes who do bad. Not only that, we have to fight a group of, let's see. That's a tough one. We have to kill a bunch of people. Not only that, we have to kill a group of villains who are about to attack UA. And she says, wait a minute, how do you know about, like, UA and all that stuff? I thought you wanted to kill heroes. And he says, I don't want to kill heroes in general. I want to kill the ones who actually make people's life suffer. Or who make people miserable. It doesn't matter to me. Or anything like that. I swear, I would not just kill for no reason. I'm not a monster. Although I am a revenant of hell. And she says, okay, Mr. Depressing. Let's go. Pretty much they set off their adventure to somewhat go to UA. Now, as much as I know this is going to happen, pretty much they just sign up to go to UA and all that stuff. They are in schools, after all. It is somewhat a place where they can just go to. And pretty much they sign up for all that stuff. They get in. Pretty much the entrance exam happens. And pretty much Izuku, freaking Todoroki, Izuku, Dabi, and freaking Toga, they all go. And pretty much they start all charging in, destroying things. Now, Toga takes Dabi's blood and Izuku's blood and somewhat uses it. Her blood becomes much more infused with power, and she can actually help maintain the form for at least a good 5 minutes. Now she's shooting fire and stuff and ice stuff, pretty much destroying things. Dabi is just burning everything, and Izuku's doing freezing things to death and burning things to death. So, okay. So Izuku just somewhat uses his fire side, like I said, and his eyesight to just burn things and use all his weapons. Not only that, with teleportation, he gets there much more faster. So by destroying them, not only that, using his kunai and chain, which has to be used out of fire and ice, somewhat making it to the point where it's an ice spear that turns into a freaking, what is it called? An ice spear that loosens up and becomes somewhat, it's a weird thing. But if not, he just uses ice spears, ice freaking swords, an ice shield. Not only that, burning things alive. And yeah, he's doing this, and he's learning how to control it using his own talents. And not only that, pretty much Izuku is somewhat dodging any attack that comes towards him. Not only that, breaking off their legs, just crushing them. And people see who this guy, like, what this guy is doing. This kid is not your average destroy, like, your average hero. He is trained to kill. And when the 0-pointer arrives, he says this is a challenge worthy of my skills. Or probably worthy of my skills. I do not know how strong this person is. And Izuku just runs in, teleports, after all that stuff happens, somewhat going from side to sides of the building, making ice pillars. And actually making it kind of like how, basically, it's going diagonally, hitting vital spots. Not only that, but Izuku can learn how to make ice pillars already. Because ice pillars is just a pillar of ice. Not only that, pretty much by doing this, the 0-pointer can't actually move as well. Not only that, Izuku is just somewhat freezing everything that he can right now, and then burning it to a crisp. Not only that, making the metal so hot that the gears towards the vehicle, or that make the 0-pointer like move around from place to place, is melting. So it can't actually do anything right now, and Izuku is somewhat just destroying everything under it, I should say. Jumping up, using fire on its feet to somewhat go faster and higher, and somewhat just look down on it. Grabbing a freaking ice hammer and just how would I say this? Flying down even faster and slamming the hammer on its freaking head, which causes a vibration to the point where it's stuck and it's not moving. Everybody knows it's not moving. Oh no, Izuku destroyed the freak out of this thing. And pretty much it died. And Izuku won. Now, Dabi and Toga actually got in their fair share because they also helped out people. And yes, they are different. They're different. They're not mind-blooded just wanting to kill. They actually have reasons now because Izuku's there. And because Izuku's there, he's going to teach them the path of greatness. So, after all that's said and done, pretty much Izuku, give me a second here, people. Oh jeez, sorry about that. There was a cat, and I like the cat. But anyway, what happens is this. Izuku and the others are basically, how would I say this, doing their own thing. And when Izuku was there, talking with all the other people, yes, he was talking to other people because he's going to school. And he has to be the best he can be. He has to be top-notch. Now, yes, I know I'm going to add 3 people because Izuku's going to be primarily one of the people that was already in there. So, basically, no one else is going to be there, and especially Dabi and Toga, they're going to be there as well. So, pretty much it, yeah. Now, Izuku, how would I say this? Izuku was looking at all these people, and he was kind of happy because he gets to actually go to a school where there's people like him, the strongest of the strong. And not only that, Dabi and Toga are there, so they're pretty much this is a three-man team. So, Izuku, he just, fights with Bakugo. And Bakugo is already, you know how he is. He's already he's yelling at him saying, I'm going to be the strongest #1 hero. And Izuku says, yeah, right, I'm going to be the strongest #1 hero. And, hold on. Okay. So, Bakugo says, why do you want to be the #1 hero? And Izuku says, to protect people. To get rid of scum of the earth. And this is when Bakugo says, oh, so you're going to try to be a hero. I'm just going to do it to show, that way I can show everyone that I can be the #1 hero. And Izuku says, cool, I don't give a crap. Do whatever you want to do. And Bakugo says, wait, what? And this is when Izuku says, yeah, even if you want to be the #1 hero, I don't care. All you are is someone who is just an annoyance. And people just see this and they're like, wow, Izuku's this kid's kind of rude. And Izuku says, it's not rudeness. It's just the fact of the matter that someone right now is being annoying to the extent that I can't hear or think about anything else. The fact of the matter being, I don't actually want to care about someone who's just going to hinder me. Not only that, someone who's just going to proclaim he's going to be the #1 hero. Not only that, using it with that kind of attitude, he's not going to do it from the bottom of his heart as an actual hero. He's going to do it as someone who sees this more as a... How would I say this? That's a tough one right there. But I don't do this out of hatred. I really don't. To be honest, there's no reason why. There's no reason why I should be hating him. It's just the fact of the matter, him being annoying to me. And Bakugo's like, you're an arrogant person, aren't you? Izuku says, I don't care if I'm arrogant or not. Because I don't care about that at all. And he's walking up to freaking Bakugo. He's walking up to him with just nothing more than just honesty in his eyes. And saying, just because you're the #1 hero doesn't mean I'm going to respect you. You're just another person here who somewhat annoys me. I don't know how you do it, but somehow you were able to just annoy me. By talking and talking and talking. I really didn't care at all. To be honest, I thought you were just going to be quiet. But no. I'm going to be the #1 hero so I can just protect the world. I'm not going to do it with a smile upon my face. Because I know protecting the world's going to be so consequential. To do it, it's going to take so much out of me. And I have to give so much to it. But either way, if you're not going to be a hero, then just get away from me. Walking off. Bakugo gets mad and Aizawa says, you guys are not going to shut up, so let's just go to the quirk apprehension test. And they do it. Izuku gets first. Toga, Fourth, Dabi. Fifth, reason why is because, first of all, Toga's not actually strong, and she can't actually she could throw her freaking ball, but she's not strong enough and powerful enough just to do it. But she does get a decent amount. And not only that, pretty much Dabi, she shot hers, but even though she used fire to boost it up, it was so hot, it just melted the ball, so it's like, alright, we don't have that anymore, so Izuku just somewhat hits it with full strength. Not only that, using ice and fire at absolute, just burning and freezing everything. Well, not freezing and burning everything, just doing it to the whole point where basically it just bursts, and pretty much that's it. So, not only that, pretty much Izuku just looks around and he says, alright. Bakugo gets second. Let's see, Todoroki 4. So yeah. Oh, and freaking Dabi knows who Todoroki is. He cares about her siblings. She cares about her siblings. This is the fact of the matter being right now, she is right, like, thinking, ooh, yeah, he doesn't know who I am. Just, I'll wait. I'll be patient with him. You know, just doing all that stuff. So, with all that stuff happening, pretty much Izuku is just going around and talking to the other people, saying, how are you guys doing? My name is technically Izuku, and his name is not Midoriya and all that stuff, so we really don't need to worry about too much of that. And not only that, Izuku is going to, how would I say it? Be friends with them, but it's not like he's gonna be like, oh yeah, let's go do this, let's get our freaking toenails painted. Which I don't know why people do that. Nobody's going to look at your shoes, but I guess it's a thing. I don't know, to be honest, that's not a thing I'm used to seeing. I don't know how people talk nowadays, but anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it off. I'm going to leave it off with the cat right here. Now, like, comment, and do subscribe to the channel here, people. This has been the Fallout What If here. Bye.